Hello, good people. Welcome back to the Kuhb Games YouTube channel. We are back with sort of a replay match analysis. Don't do as many of these anymore because they don't go over super well, but god dang it, I like doing it, so we're going to do one. This is a cool match that I played, I think, last night at this point, against a Chaos Turbo player that kind of wanted to just go over the replay, kind of show it off, and I just wanted to go over the replay anyway, just for my sake, for learning. Speaking of learning, if you all haven't had the tiramisu Oreo thins, you need to learn how good those are, because they're incredible. All 400 of you hound Nabisco to sponsor the stream so that I can get those free and become as large as a house. So anyway, let's get into the game here. We lose rock, paper, scissors. So we're going second. No big deal. Opening up a good hand here. Always love to see a Solemn Judgment hand, and always love to see a Pot of Greed hand. And we don't have a whole lot of monsters to go with the Blade Knight, so pretty happy when I see this. Opponent's going to start on Thunder Dragon, so very happy to see this hand against what is, potentially going to be a turbo deck where they're going to be setting stuff, and the Blade Knight's going to be on. Draw a non-monster card, which is really good here. So let's see what we can hit off of this Pot of Greed. Just going to fire it off. We hit a Nobleman of Crossout and a Trap Dust Shoot, which is some of the best draws we could possibly have, to be honest. So like now, even if the opponent has a Spy, we just get over it turn one. We can put on a lot of pressure. We get to see our opponent's hand with the Trap Dust Shoot to go along with the Solemn Judgment. We have Call of the Haunted to get our Blade Knight back if it somehow dies. We have Ring of Destruction to push through more damage, and just, DD Warrior Lady is a good card as well. This hand is awesome. But I'm going to summon the Blade Knight first and then knock the opponent's monster. Big fan of this play turn one. Chaos Turbo is not always going to set the Spy turn one, but if it is a Spy, this helps push damage. And like at this point, I know I'm just going to go Blade Knight set for an attack. And the name of the game for this game one is going to be to just be aggressive and push through the damage here. So I like the knock play instead of potentially running the Blade Knight into a Spy. Obviously, I do have an answer for one Spy in Ring of Destruction, but then I would have to give up my DD Warrior Lady for the other one, and it just slows me down too much, and I don't really like to give Turbo a whole lot of time to really build up their resources. I think that's one of the ways that, probably the most common way that Warrior loses to Chaos Turbo. So we're going to hit our opponent for 2,000. We're going to Trap Dust Shoot here. So we see that the opponent drew an Upstart Goblin. They have Thunder Dragon, of course, Knight Assailant, Chaos Sorcerer, and Nobleman of Crossout. This hand's awful against what we have going on. I don't care about the Knight Assailant at all because I have this Blade Knight, of course. So I don't really feel the need to take that. We can just take this Chaos Sorcerer because our opponent does have, Dark Light online. They just need to get the Knight Assailant to the graveyard, and then they can summon the Chaos Sorcerer. So I think it's a pretty easy Chaos Sorcerer take here. Obviously, we don't want to take one of the Thunder Dragons. We can't take the Knock or the Upstart. And again, Knight Assailant is just kind of useless. So we send back the Sorcerer, and feeling great about this game. Our opponent's hand sucks. They don't play Battle Traps game one, so we're not too worried about the face down. And our opponent is going to flip it up. It's Heavy Storm, so we have to counter with Judgment here. Not a big deal. Opponent's hand still not very good. Upstart Goblin draws Graceful Charity. Okay. Graceful Charity draws cards. We're going to pitch both of the Thunder Dragons. Pot of Greed off the Graceful Charity. So, the best Upstart of all time, I say in the chat. I like to talk with people. Pretty good Upstart. They're going to They throw off the MST here, and I'm like, okay, maybe we'll hit the wrong card. No, they hit the ring, and what else did they draw? Breaker. So the opponent gets to kill our back row as well, and now, I'm down to nothing. Oh, by the way, they also drew Snatch Steal. So, yeah, just say in the chat, feeling great about the game. Now I'm just dead. And, the opponent attacks in for 3,200, and then they actually set cards, so they could have gotten in for 400 more damage there, but it's not going to make a difference. I draw Kaiku, which, Doesn't really do anything on this board. I can attack over the breaker, but the Blade Knight's just going to attack. And I know they have a Knight Assailant, so they can just kill the Kaiku, attack with the Blade Knight and kill me. Like, I guess, well, no, even if I set the DD Warrior Lady, they can still just kill it with the Knight Assailant. So it's actually dead here, I think, for just a small little bit. I guess I'm not dead. Because they don't have the Thunder Dragon in hand. And I did gain 1,000 there, but, I mean, I'm dead. So, just scoop it up there. Go to game 2. Hope for a better time. If our opponent hadn't, just drawn Unreal off of the Upstart Goblin, we probably would have won that game fairly quickly. But, that's how it be sometimes. Sometimes, you just get outdrawn in a situation. That's just how, any card game is. It's not just GOAT. I know people give GOAT a bad rap for the Trinity pieces, but, that happens in any card game. It happens in current Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything. So we sight in, as you see here, My Body as a Shield. One of my favorite sideboard techs right now. Actually playing a second copy of Mystic Swordsman level 2 in the board, which you all have seen already if you were looking at the side whenever the deck was up on the screen. So we sighted in a second Mystic Swordsman, and we drew our My Body as a Shield. So here I'm just going to pitch Kaiku and Blade Knight. Blade Knight, not great with a whole bunch of monsters in hand, and also level 2 just kind of doing its job a little better, and we have all kinds of protection for the level 2. Also, we have Call of the Haunted, so we can, we can reborn the Blade Knight or the Kaiku whenever we see fit. So perfectly fine with doing this, keeping all the traps, keeping the My Body, just kind of getting rid of redundant cards. I'm going to lead off on Kaiku. Don't really just want to summon level 2 turn 1, then your opponent's just not going to set a monster at that point. I elect to set just Bottomless Trap Hole and pass. No need to overextend into Storm here without the Solemn Judgment, and anything that's going to threaten the Kaiku is going to be able to be handled by Bottomless Trap Hole. So, opponent has Snatch Steal. They get to take out the monsters. Not that big of a deal. They actually sack the Kaiku for what I presume is a Thunder Dragon. Obviously, we can see here that it is the Thunder Dragon. But, I mean, that puts a Kaiku back in our graveyard, honestly, for Call of the Haunted. So now I don't even have to Mirror Force the Kaiku. So I'm actually kind of, I understand why people make that play. It plays around, Breaker, MST, whatever, just to get the Kaiku back. But with my current setup, and, the opponent doesn't know this, my current setup, I'm perfectly fine with them tributing off the Kaiku for Thunder Dragon here. So, we get a little lucky this game. Now we have Graceful Charity, Pot of Greed. Graceful Charity, obviously better for the opponent than it is for us, but I'll take it. I just summon level 2. I think that's a Thunder Dragon, but, if my opponent has a Battle Trap, we can draw out the Battle Trap here. That's not that big of a deal. We can actually just let the level 2 go, because we have protection with Mirror Force and Bottomless. We also just have a second level 2 that may not be on our opponent's radar. Obviously, the TSO lists are playing 2 level 2s, but a lot of people, and I think rightfully so, a lot of people aren't going to be expecting 2 level 2s from the Warrior deck. It's not a very common thing. So, just attack the Thunder Dragon. I am going to set the Mirror Force here. If the opponent heavy storms, and it's not pro set heavy here, then, it's just going to be 1-for-1, and I think I'm okay with playing that game because I have Call of the Haunted, and Premature Burial to sort of bring back Kaiku if I need to, and start gaining some advantage that way by turning my opponent's graveyard off. So I'm pretty okay with that. Opponent flips Jar of Greed. I'm like, that could mean Heavy Storm here, and that's going to be sort of a bit of a blowout. But it could also just not mean Heavy Storm. They could just be activating the Jar of Greed. I don't really like activating the Jar of Greed on instep. I feel like you get as much, not necessarily just get as much information as possible, but you can just kind of wait. Maybe your opponent, throws out a breaker. You get value by them removing the counter. Maybe your opponent needs to make a push, and they're just like, I'm going to MST this back row, and it ends up being a Jar of Greed, so you plus there. And also, if you don't need to draw a card, then there's no reason to. And you would gain more information in your draw step to see, maybe on my end step, they're like, oh yeah, I need to draw something here, but during the draw step, they draw that something, or they draw something, you know, adjacent to that, they'd be like, oh, well, I don't need to draw an extra card here, so I can just save the Jar of Greed for later. It's a very minor thing, but it is something that I like to do. The opponent does have Heavy Storm, so we lose the Bottomless, lose the Mirror Force. I feel like I didn't actually need to set that Mirror Force. I feel like that was a bit of a misplay. I was purely going off of my opponent has a back row. If they activate Heavy Storm, it's going to be 1-for-1, so it's perfectly fine here. But if the opponent draws MST, they MST the Bottomless, they summon a monster, they attack over the level 2. Again, it's not really that big of a deal because I have Premature Burial, and my body is a shield to protect the Blade Knight or the Kaiku, whichever I decide to get, and I have Call of the Haunted later too. So I don't really need to protect this level 2. Plus, if the opponent summons Breaker as the way to deal with the back row, I have Bottomless for it. So I think setting the Mirror Force there was a bit of a misstep, and it is going to cost me getting plussed on here. The opponent finds Graceful Charity again, so pretty good for them having Heavy Storm and a Graceful Charity. They discard double Night Assailant, which is pretty good, but honestly, them discarding double Night Assailant is perfectly fine with me. I have double Mystic Swordsman level 2. We can deal with these Night Assailants all day. So I'm actually kind of glad here that they don't have a Dark in the graveyard. They just have the 2 Thunder Dragons. And now I know, you know, the opponent has 2 Night Assailants and a Thunder Dragon in hand. So I know 3 of their 7 cards. That's pretty good information. So the opponent sets a bunch of back row and sets the Night Assailant. So, you know, obviously setting a monster into level 2, they've got something to deal with the level 2. We just don't know what yet. So hopefully, you know, my body as a shield can clean up like a Sakuretsu or something here. But we'll see. We've got a few plays we can make. We could Prima the Kaiku here, and we could attack into the Night Assailant, get the Kaiku in, hopefully protected with my body as a shield. But the opponent does have 2 back row. And of course, you know, going post board, the opponent's going to have more battle traps. Stuff like Sakuretsu armors and the like. But I do elect to Premature Burial. And my opponent flips up Threatening Roar. I get it. Warrior attacks you a lot, but I think if you're... I don't really think you should be siding Threatening Roar in Turbo, but if you are, I think you probably save those for the OTK matchups like Reasoning Gate rather than Warrior. But, you know, it is going to work out here. I'm not going to be able to attack with this level 2, but I do get Kaiku on the board. I set a lot here. I understand what I'm thinking. You know, Heavy Storm's gone, but there's no guarantee my opponent set a Night Assailant. That could very well just be a Magician of Faith, because they had the Threatening Roar, and they could get back Heavy Storm here. I guess, you know, I'm just putting my opponent on the Night Assailant, which is fine. Like, they have 2 Night Assailants in hand, obviously. But let's see. I definitely need to set my body as a shield, because if I'm putting them on Night Assailant, I need to protect this Kaiku at this point. So, and then I could set the Trap Dust Shoot, though I guess Heavy Storm takes out the Kaiku no matter what, right? So I'm just kind of, I don't know, maybe it is just correct. I think it's really close here. Like, do you play around that being a Magician of Faith specifically? And even then, like, you kind of just lose if it's Magician of Faith, right? Even if you don't set a whole bunch. Did I know? Yeah, no, I didn't have any other information on the opponent's hand. I just knew 2 Night Assailants and a Thunder Dragon. I don't know. I think that decision's actually just pretty close. I probably could have thought about that a little bit more. And thought, you know, if this is a Magician of Faith, how do I move forward here? But I do opt to set everything, and I think there's merit to thinking, you know, maybe the Magician of Faith is going to kill you anyway. So if it is, just take the L and move on. Because Heavy Storm here would just be an absolute disaster. But because I think you do have to set the My Body as a shield because of the Night Assailant. So if they get back Heavy Storm, I mean, you're going to lose the My Body, you're going to lose Prima, and you're going to lose your Kaiku, and you're just left with this 900 with a 900, like a level 2 in hand. So I think maybe, yeah, just thinking about it for a little bit longer here, maybe it is just correct to set everything, even in the face of Magician of Faith, because you're going to lose if they have the Magician of Faith anyway. So may as well get the stuff down and play like it's not Magician of Faith and play like it is the Night Assailant that you know about. But we are going to trap Dust Shoot here. The opponent drew the Magician of Faith this turn. And they have Kaiku in hand, Book of Moon, Thunder Dragon, Night Assailant. Okay, so we see Book of Moon, which is an interesting choice. Not a lot of turbo decks are playing that anymore. But we don't care about the Night Assailants. We have level 2s. We have 2 level 2s, so we kind of don't care about the Moth either. We just have to make sure that we can push through. And with double level 2, My Body is a Shield, Call of the Haunted, I think it's almost guaranteed that we're going to be able to push these through, even through this Book of Moon. So if we take the Kaiku here, our opponent can't deal with this one level 2, so we're guaranteed to have the other one. And if the opponent has Torrential, obviously, we have My Body as a shield, but I feel like since we know now that this is a Night Assailant, whenever we summon this Kaiku, our opponent has, a good reason to just Torrential there. Though I guess they could hold back and still just do the Threatening Roar play. That also makes sense. So it could still be Torrential, but probably thinking, it's probably not. But we're very likely, even through this Book of Moon, to be able to get both level 2s through, and just be able to, or at least one level 2 through, and just be able to deal with the opponent's sets. Obviously, it's a little different if the opponent flips up Night Assailant here, but I think we can just let the Kaiku go. So I kind of want to just take their Kaiku, which I think is an interesting inclusion post board against Warrior. But we take that. We get to keep all of our monsters. Our opponent's not going to get any pluses through combat. And then they have to, sort of make decisions. Do we want to flip up this Night Assailant to try to kill a Kaiku? And then just leave that Night Assailant sort of a sitting duck on the board. And then, not even really be able to set any more monsters. Obviously, we see they have a Raigeki Break now, so they know from their side they have Raigeki Break to help deal with a level 2. They have Book of Moon to help deal with a level 2, so they might think that they're safe here. So yeah. I am just going to take the Kaiku. And so we're just banking on, getting these level 2s to go through. Our opponent's actually going to activate Raigeki Break here to take out the Kaiku. So we know Book of Moon, Night Assailant, Magician of Faith. I don't really know about this, but we lose the Kaiku. They flip up Night Assailant. I'm just going to lose the level 2 here because, I know, you've got Book of Moon. I can play through Book of Moon. I have Call of the Haunted for a level 2, and I have another level 2. So if they set, what I presume is going to be the Magician of Faith, we're golden. We can take it out. We draw a Sasuke, which is nice. Here, what really sucks, though, is, I can't really Call of the Haunted the Kaiku, because I have to get rid of the Magician of Faith here. Our opponent's going to be able to get back Graceful Charity, Heavy Storm, Snatch Steal, whatever, and I think those are just too powerful. So we have to fade our opponent drawing Chaos Monster off the top at some point, but we attack with the level 2. It gets Book of Moon. We attack with our other level 2 off of the Call of the Haunted. Thank you, Tiso, for a double level 2 ideas here. I know it's been done in the past, but I'm going to give the credit to Tiso for it. But yeah, our opponent draws a Gravekeeper Spy, which is pretty good here. He gets to clean up our board. We lose both of the level 2s. Not a big deal. We do have this Sasuke, and we know the last card in our opponent's hand is a Night Assailant, which is something that we can get around. It's not that big of a deal. Just going to go ahead and attack the Spy, because if something happens and we aren't able to clear the Spy here, then and we lose our Sasuke, then the Spy is just going to be sitting there for a while, and that could get really annoying. So just clear the bigger threat. Just leave this Night Assailant. It's just kind of sitting around, not doing anything. I'm going to set the trap Dust Shoot. Obviously, it's not doing anything right now. But I don't think there's any harm in setting it. Opponent sets a monster. We presume it's going to be Night Assailant. We draw Rhoda, which is pretty good here. I'm going to attack over the Night Assailant, and now I could Rhoda for Exiled Force, or I could just, wait for my opponent to try to flip this. and hit it with My Body as a Shield. Obviously, My Body as a Shield could come into play a little bit later to hit something a little bit better than just a random Night Assailant. So I kind of like just going to get Exiled Force here. I guess that does open me up to just top deck Chaos Monster for the win. So maybe I do just want to hold on to the Rhoda and try to protect the Sasuke with a My Body as a Shield. I don't hate that. Because like we already have the answer to the Night Assailant, so why go get another answer whenever the answer that we could go get can take care of a lot more things. It's a lot more broad of an answer than My Body as a Shield is. So I like holding the Rhoda here. I don't like... playing around Duo? I guess you're playing around a one of either way. Though I guess the opponent has shown that they're willing to blind MST, so you're playing around either Duo or you're playing around MST plus Breaker. So I guess you're actually statistically more likely to get hit with MST or Breaker than you are Duo, so I'm probably supposed to just keep the Rhoda in hand there. Okay. So yeah, opponent flips up Night Assailant. I let the Sasuke go. I'm also okay with this. I know I talked about, we have the My Body as a Shield if we want to protect the Sasuke, but also I think it is sort of forward thinking to just hold on to that, because like this is only attacking for 200. Our life points aren't under super duress here, and we have now we have Rhoda. We can just attack over the Night Assailant and get the plus back that way, and we could get something like a Blade Knight. So if the opponent summons or sets another monster, we can just go get our other Blade Knight and attack over that, and then just leave this Night Assailant chilling here. Obviously, that's not as good if the opponent has a Spy or something like that. That's probably fine to hold that. And say our opponent has, set monster plus a newly drawn Battle Trap or something in hand. They may think they're fine, and then we can just run over stuff. Breaker here is not bad. It is a beater. If you all can hear those storms in the background, the storms are coming in. I'm just going to Rhoda here. I'm going to go get the Exiled Force. So now I have a beater that can get over the Night Assailant, so I don't have to get Blade Knight exactly, and Exiled Force takes care of Gravekeeper Spy if that's what they set. They haven't seen one yet this duel, so there's a chance they could have drawn into that. So I don't hate switching up the idea, just getting an Exiled Force here. Also, Exiled Force, yeah, it can attack over the Night Assailant and then kill the monster, so Exiled Force actually takes care of both, which I do like, and it's a Dokoichi, so we deny the opponent a draw. We draw Solemn Judgment here, which is excellent. Breaker Summon comes down, just going to pop the back row. It's an MST, and that's going to end up hitting our Trap Dust Shoot instead of the My Body as a Shield, so that's excellent. Hoping this isn't a Spy. It's a Reaper, which is kind of like a Spy. But, we have ways to deal with Reaper. We'll get to it. Our opponent, we're both kind of on top deck mode, but we have a Solemn Judgment. Tribe is obviously excellent here, backed up by My Body as a Shield. Our opponent draws Upstart. We know how that went for us last time. And the opponent draws a pretty good card, Kaiku. So I'm actually going to Solemn Judgment here. The reason for that is I have an answer to the Spirit Reaper, and it's protected by My Body as a Shield. So I want to start pressuring the opponent. They haven't seen a single Chaos Monster yet in the top half of their deck, so they're going to start drawing those. I want to get the game over with as quickly as possible. Also, I have Dark and Light in my graveyard, and I don't want BLS to be turned off. I don't want to have another top deck, because BLS obviously could be big game here. So I think this is a very good Solemn Judgment here. We draw Torrential. That's fine. I don't really want Torrential here, so we drew a good card to pitch to Tribe. Let's get rid of this Reaper. Start attacking. Our opponent has Mirror Force, and we have the My Body as a Shield. So saving that, even though I could have activated it like 2 or 3 other times this game, turned out to be huge. So pretty good forward thinking here. Obviously, we're dead to a Ring of Destruction from the opponent, but as you see, we drew the BLS. So Solomon the Kaiku, big thumbs up to me. We take that. So here comes the BLS. We're going to win game 2. The opponent showed us that they have knock in their hand. Great information. Awesome. So now I know that the opponent has knock still in their deck. I don't have any flips now. We're just like not even going to question bringing in the Magician of Faith here. We're just going to leave those knocks completely useless. So got a pretty good hand here. Draw Kaiku, and our opponent shows that they have Trapped Dust Shoot in the deck as well. So like our opponent sided in like Kaikus and some stuff, but they didn't even side out the Dust Shoots or the knocks, and I'm not sure how you make room for that without siding those out in Turbo, but not totally sure. But obviously our opponent has an answer to level 2, but I'm going to summon it out and just pull out the answer. Luckily for us, it's a Raigeki break, and our opponent discards a freaking Gravekeeper's Spy. So very happy with the turnout of that. The level 2 traded for, you know, a trap and a spy. And that's, you can't really ask for much more than that out of a level 2. Our opponent flips up the Dekoichi here. They draw into Thunder Dragon, which is pretty good for them because now they have Dark Light in the graveyard. But we have Bottomless to take care of Chaos Monster, so not that big of a deal. We know that the opponent doesn't have another spy, at least right here. So we have Sasuke that can attack over that. And now we draw a second Sasuke. So I would think that, you know, it's a pretty real chance the opponent could have another spy in hand. Because spy is just so good in the matchup. Why would you discard it to the Raigeki break when you have other things to discard? So there's a reasonable chance this could be a spy set. So if something happens to our first Sasuke, we have another one. But we get over the Deco, and I'm just going to probably make the mistake of setting a trap again. Yeah, the opponent hasn't shown Heavy Storm, and we saw how that worked out for us. So, again, I'm being a little loose with my back row. Sometimes I am just more aggressive with it than other times. I see the Jar of Greed here, and I'm like, oh no, maybe I made this same stupid mistake again. But no heavy. The opponent's just going to summon Sangan. We're going to take 1200. That's not a big deal. We have Sasuke to attack over stuff. We draw Breaker, which is actually really good here. So, like, we can, you know, hopefully get another plus on our opponent. Just take out the back row. It's going to be a Book of Moon. So, you know, we've got the Book of Moons in still. But, you know, our opponent's current field can't even attack over this Breaker. So they've got to summon something else. And they actually sack up for Mobius. I flip the Bottomless here, and our opponent gets knock value, which is... It's funny. Don't worry. We missed the Sangan here. But we get to it here in a little bit. I draw a card, and the opponent says, hold up, Sangan. I'm like, oh, yeah, get your Sangan. I just put the Sasuke back in hand. We move it back to draw phase because I can't go back to my opponent's turn, but they're going to get the Knight Assailant. If anything, this works out for them because they get more information. They know I've got a Sasuke now. So they go grab another Knight Assailant. I'm just going to summon Sasuke, attack the Knight Assailant. And we don't really have to worry about the other Knight Assailant. We have stuff to protect the Sasuke if we need to with Mirror Force. No, my opponent's Breaker is not gone, but if Breaker wants to activate, obviously you can't attack over the Sasuke. And if they just want to attack first and try to go for that +2, we have the Mirror Force for it. And for this Knight Assailant, our opponent added to hand, we have the Exiled Force. So feeling pretty all right here. Opponent top decks, it appears to, you know, they appear to draw MST. Off the top, they hit the Mirror Force. I think if you're just gonna blind MST like that, I do not like that play at all. But it's fine. We know our opponent has a Knight Assailant, so I think. Oh right, I have another level 2 in the deck. So yeah, I'm just gonna go get the level 2. Reasoning behind this. Our opponent is set up with Light and Dark in the graveyard. We know the 2 cards in hand are Thunder Dragon, but our opponent very well could draw Chaos Monster off the top. So we get the level 2 here. to deal with the face down, and we save the Exile Force to potentially be able to take out a BLS or a Chaos Sorcerer. So, level 2 attack over the Knight Assailant and get in there with Sasuke. We've got the opponent down to 4,200. Unfortunately, our monsters are so small, we don't have lethal here, and we draw a BLS, but guess what? No dark. So we're not able to top deck BLS for game. That's fine. I'm not going to summon the Exiled Force. There's no reason to get in for 3,700 when we can just hold this Exiled Force, because if our opponent draws a BLS here, we're in a very bad situation. You see our opponent does draw a Chaos Monster. It's a Chaos Sorcerer, which is a little better for us. They are going to opt to just exile the Sasuke, but then they throw down a Jinzo. So, luckily for us, our answer is a monster. It's not a trap. So we lose our level 2, lose our whole board here, but you know, the opponent does still just have 2 Thunder Dragons in hand. We have an answer to this Jinzo. Hopefully, we can get there. Exile Force comes down, kills the Jinzo. We set a useless Trap Dust Shoot that we drew. Our opponent sets a back row and passes. Okay, we have Snatch Steal now. Hopefully, we can maneuver into a spot where Snatch Steal wins the game. Drawing Solemn Judgment is a great way to do that. So, set the Judgment, pass. I try to stop the opponent in standby phase, and they just activate Delinquent Duo. So I just keep asking. They say no, so I'm going to flip the Trap Dust Shoot. We take a look at the hand. They drew their Snatch Steal. So it's Snatch, Thunder Dragon, Thunder Dragon. So I'm sitting here thinking, I need this Snatch Steal to win the game. Potentially. I don't know what my opponent's back row is, but the cards in my hand are so powerful that I'm going to Solemn Judgment here. I send back one of the Thunder Dragons because got to send something back, and I Solemn Judgment the Delinquent Duo. So I know my opponent doesn't have anything going on in hand. If I draw a monster, I can push through and hope their back row's not real. And if it is, I take out the back row to do potential Snatch, Steal, BLS play later. Obviously, I need to draw exactly a dark for BLS, but we can get there. And I think, like, you know, the opponent's not going to have a lot of things that can just attack me for lethal. We know they have Kaiku, but, you know, 1800's not 1850. It's not a Blazing Apache. But Breaker is like the only thing that they're going to normal summon to actually kill me, but anything they summon will kill them with my Snatch Steal. So I think you can make the case to just let that go and leave the Solemn Judgment for something else, but I think the Snatch Steal BLS could just be really big here. I draw a DD Warrior Lady, which is lethal. I can't summon it, or I can summon it and attack. And I don't really have to worry about the Snatch Steal. If they don't have a real trap, they lose. If they do have a real trap, they have to activate it and they get rid of the DD Warrior Lady, so I don't have to worry about dying there. I did sit and think about it, though. I'm like, do I need to set? Do I need to summon and try to attack? And I just landed on yes. You need to summon and attack and try to go for game here. And you shouldn't get punished for that. We lose the Mirror Force. We lose the DD Warrior Lady to Mirror Force, which is fine. Just going to set the Snatch Steal. Why? Oh, that's why I set the Snatch Steal. If my opponent draws Breaker, I want them to break the back row. Because if they draw exactly Breaker here, like their MST is gone. So if they draw exactly Breaker and I don't set anything, they kill me. But if they draw Breaker and I set this, you know, obviously I need to top deck to deal with the Breaker, but they don't kill me. So I actually don't hate setting the Snatch Steal here. I think that makes a lot of sense. We lose out to Heavy Storm, but like if the opponent draws Heavy Storm, then we're not dead. And, you know, hopefully we can eventually Snatch Steal whatever, or we can draw Dark, something like that. But the opponent draws Magician of Faith, it looks like, and they just set it. So I draw Tribe. I'm like, okay. Can I summon it is the problem. And I conclude that I can't. So if this is, like, if really anything, if I attack over this, if it's a spy, I just die on the spot. But say, like, if I attack the tribe with the tribe, They snatch the tribe and they draw any monster. I just die. So set the tribe, get it on the board. It is an extra defense. Opponent draws Upstart, which gives me an extra 1,000, so cool. I'm all right with that. Opponent flips Magician of Faith, not cool. Not really okay with that, but the opponent gets back fucking Nobleman of Crossout. I'm like, we're going to get knocked twice in a game where I didn't, like, I guess I set this monster, but the first one I didn't set myself. Book of Moon did it, but our opponent tree beats up, and it looks like it's just going to be a Thunder Dragon, so that can't kill us. Can't do a whole lot. I draw a Kaiku. God bless the top of my deck. We're going to set that rather than attacking over Thunder Dragon. I think I'm okay with that. So the idea, like, I still know my opponent had, yeah. So that's what was going through my head. I still know the opponent has a Snatch Steal. So I don't want to summon something that's going to put me down to 1050 when almost anything that they have with it is going to be able to kill me. Whereas 100% sure this is a Thunder Dragon. If they attack over my Kaiku, then I can kill them with BLS because I'm getting a Dark in the graveyard. They can't banish this with Chaos Sorcerer. They could with BLS, but they have to draw exactly BLS to do that. If they draw another knock, good for them. So I think I actually like this play. It seems a little weird, but I think I like it. And if our opponent, summons another monster or whatever, even just flips the Thunder Dragon. If they flip the Thunder Dragon, attack the Kaiku, I can Snatch Steal the Thunder Dragon. They've got to deal with that. If they do, I have BLS follow-up. And if they don't, they die. So yeah, I actually like setting the Kaiku here. Just kind of make the opponent make the first push, just continually playing around that Snatch Steal. Opponent summons Breaker. I'm okay with seeing that. Because we know one card in hand is Snatch Steal and one card's a random. So they flip the Thunder Dragon, they attack over the Kaiku, they attack with Breaker. We go to 1250. They pass the turn. No back row. We drew an MST anyway. We have won the game. So summon out BLS. Yeah, thought this was just, a very interesting match with a lot of decisions. This video is a lot longer than a lot of these analysis videos because there were a whole lot of decisions, a whole lot of like small decisions that, come up, end up mattering. I was a little loose with my back row setting. Obviously, one game I got punished for that with the Heavy Storm. The other game I didn't get punished for that, but sometimes, sometimes I think you can just get a little bit more aggressive, but in those situations, I believe it wasn't correct to set those extra back rows. So that's something to learn from. And then just, looking back on how you play around stuff like those Snatch Steal turns there at the end of the last game, I think those are very valuable turns to watch and rewatch to make sure, you're navigating those little, subsections of matches correctly, because they don't come up a lot, so you don't get a whole ton of experience with the perfect knowledge, knowing exactly what's going on. But when they do come up, it's very good to know how to navigate them. And if you're going to be playing any deck, you got to be prepared against Chaos Turbo. So never hurts to go over the matches. Really see what you're doing right, what mistakes you're making, and really tighten up your play against the deck, because a lot of times you got to play really well to beat Chaos Turbo. It is the best deck for a reason. So yeah, that's going to be the video on the analysis of Warriors versus Chaos Turbo here. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll be back with the next video.